Day 23 of learning how to build my own iPhone apps. Today I learned quite a few things and I'm not too sure if I fully understand a few of them, but before we get into that, let's get into what I do understand. Starting with the modifier order. As you can probably assume, modifiers modify things and the order that you place them in matters. For example, we can set this button here to have a frame size of 200 by 200. Now if we want to see this, we would make the background color red. However, as you can see, the size doesn't look to be a square, instead it looks to be a rectangle around the letters. In this situation, we would swap the color and frame modifiers around, that way it changes the frame size first, then the color second. Another thing that I learned about was conditional modifiers. Let's say you have a button and you would like to change the text color when it's pressed. Now there's two ways you can do this. You could add an if-else statement which reads a Boolean value and switches out the button colors, or you can add a conditional modifier like this. Here's a quick rundown of how it works. You start with what you're checking. In our case, we're seeing if this Boolean is true. You then add what you want to do when it's true and what you want to do when it's false. For this, we're going to make it turn red for true and blue for false. Now when you press the button, it'll switch between red and blue. Moving on from that, I also learned about environmental modifiers. These are basically just modifiers that are attached to groups of items. For example, let's say we have a VStack with a bunch of different text boxes inside. Now we want to change the font size of each text box, but it's going to take a while to add a font modifier to each one. To make things easier, we would actually apply the font modifier to the VStack. This would then apply it to each text box automatically. If you want, you can also override the environmental modifier by applying a modifier directly to the text box. Now you gotta kind of experiment around with this because some modifiers actually can't be overridden. Now this basically sums up what I do understand, but there were still a few things that didn't quite stick with me, and that mainly has to do with views. Today's lesson talked a lot about how structs and views are very important to Swift UI, and that's kind of where it lost me. From what I understand right now, views are basically the blueprints for what gets displayed on the screen. This is probably the best explanation I can give right now since, like I said, I'm still kind of confused on the whole thing. I'm going to do some more research to see if I can get a better understanding of this, but if you guys want to stay up to date on the progress, make sure you drop a follow and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.